Hi there, welcome to part 4 of my 4-part acrylic painting workshop. So now we're down to doing some detail. Since I've seen you last, what I've done is I've blocked in our metal strapping, and this is just a burnt umber with a little bit of black added to it as a base colour. So what I've done then is I've just masked up this top part of strapping here, and I'm just going to take you through the process of painting that. So at this stage, what we're going to do is we're going to work from dark to light. So what I've done here is I've just brushed on some Floetrol across our initial base colour. So next I'm going to be introducing our dark colour back into this. So using sort of a mid-sized brush, we're just going to starting in the darker side here. And we're just going to get some colour. Again, we're working quite quick. Just very quickly chuck a coat of black of our dark colour here over this dark colour, our dark base colour. So that's our dark brown that now we're going to introduce our light into. So starting with our mid-tone, I'm just going to start around the halfway point, just with a small square brush. And this we're just applying the paint randomly. Got some nice brush strokes in there to get a bit of texture through it. And this is just our next lightest colour that I'm starting to introduce. Again, just a little dabbing action, just moving the paint around. Right up here to our lightest edge. So you can see we've got a gradient happening through. Got some nice texture happening through it. So we're not really going to have to do too much more to that. So what I've got here is just a mid-sized blending brush, and also going to do is just soften back some of those brush strokes. And because this is like a patinaed metal, you're just putting a little bit of action through it, a little bit of what I call aging. A little bit of hit and miss with your light and dark. Okay, so that's our initial base colours there for our tonal blend. And I'm quickly just going to move on to this little bit of strapping on the side here. Again, just brushing my Floetrol on very quickly. Starting again with our dark base colour. Then obviously a much smaller surface, so I'm just going to use slightly smaller brushes, and again, sort of starting around the halfway point, just start at our mid-tone, just blending back into our dark, then again with our lightest colour. And again, just a hit and miss, we don't want any solid coverage in there, I'm just trying to create a little bit of texture. We're trying to achieve the old beaten metal look, patinaed metal. Okay guys, so that's basically, we've put a little bit of texture and a little bit of light through our metal strapping. So now I'm just going to remove the tape. So as you can see, what we've done is we've knocked out a lot of that dark out and just set it back into where it needed to be. This one here obviously hasn't been touched yet, other than the initial blocked in colour. So if you come across to here, here's one I've actually resolved a little bit further. So I've added a highlight on this outer edge, obviously from where the source of light is coming. So then basically, once this is dried off, we add some highlights across the top edge. Okay, so what also I want to show you too is, since I've seen you last, what I've done is I've divided our 2 timber panels in half, and I've done a black line through here, and that represents the crack between the 2 bits of timber. So what I've done is I've done an undulating black line, and what I've done is I've just opened it up here and there, just to imply the natural line of the timber, which is an imperfect line. So up here, another important section is I've just taken this black strapping, just a fine line across the front edge. That basically just implies that the strapping wraps around the box and disappears into the perspective. It also allows us to do a little jagged edge along this edge here. And again, the idea is we're trying to achieve that organic timber look rather than a straight edge. And as we've used tape throughout, we've got some quite sharp edges, which basically we're going to go through now and just take away some of these straight edges just with a little fine detail brush. And so where I'm going to start is I'm just going to add some highlights across the top edge and the front face there. So just using our lightest colour that we use for our blend through our metal strapping, I've just added a little bit of white to that, just to create a highlight. So now I come through and I'll just, across this top edge, just with a fine brush, and then just grab our vertical face too while we're here. So this highlight I will build up over several layers. So just do your first layer, let it dry back. And again, we're just creating a bit of a softer painted edge rather than having the square edge from our masking tape. So as we've got things sort of quite tight in here, what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to grab my Mahl Stick. So a Mahl Stick is basically a stick that has a little ball on the end. So what the Mahl Stick is designed to do is for you to be able to rest the end of it on the canvas and then rest your wrist on the piece of timber, and that just allows you to steady your hand while you're painting. Just so basically I'm not resting my hand on any areas that are still wet where you can get a smudge effect. So the Mahl Stick's just designed for you basically to steady your hand, keep your hand off the canvas so you're not smudging any wet paint. Just take your time. This highlight's quite crucial, so just take your time and just really defining that edge there. So guys, I'll just continue this the whole way along. And then basically as you come back to that same highlight, we just keep adding a little more white just to make it a little bit lighter as we go. For the second layer, this second highlight we're not going to take all the way through, we're probably just going to take it down to about the halfway point. And straight away you can see that this all of a sudden becomes a piece of metal rather than just a black square on the canvas. And it's all those little details that are so important. Okay, so that's our highlights on our strapping. It's a little bit of texture through the strapping. So next I have my dividing black line that runs through our panels here that I've done. And the key to this is, as I said, is that slight undulation here and there, just implying that it's an organic line rather than a straight edge. So again, I'm just going to come back in with a highlight with a fine brush. Again, going back to our palette for our box, which is our raw sienna with some white in it. And just take along that top edge of that bottom panel of timber, just following that the black line that we put in to represent the crack in between the timbers. And the idea is we're basically separating these two different timber panels and emphasising again that black line, that crack that runs through. And again, we can have a go of this up here. And just this little front edge here as a highlight. So again, I would spend around probably another 20 hours at this stage just detailing, just going over highlights. So another little aspect of detail that helps define the difference between these metal straps and the timber is the little screw holes or little nail holes. So to achieve them, very simple. All I'm going to do, I'm just going to work on this one that's dry and resolved, is just using some black paint. Also I'm going to do is just using a round circular motion, just put our screw hole in. Because we have two panels here, I'm putting one here for this panel, two for the top panel and two for the bottom panel. Okay, next again back to our fine detail brush. Back with our highlight colour. And also I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little light edge on the outside of our hole. This is just a little highlight. Okay, so straight away we've got our holes and then we've got our little highlight. Then going back into the hole, I'm just going to do a little bit of a mid-tone in there, just to imply there's a screw or a nail in that hole. So straight away you can see the difference between a bit of metal strapping that's been taken through to the final stages with our screw holes and our highlights, as opposed to our initial black blocked in base colour. So guys, I will just play around with this stage, go back and forth, repeating what I'm doing. Any elements that you feel need some more detail, just play around. Like I said, you've got about 20 hours of working. And just continuously, as the highlights dry back, if you feel they're not light enough, just redo them. And again, I'm just going to quickly show you a couple of nail holes here. We've got our black circles that we've done. Then again, with our fine detail brush, we're just going to do those half circle highlights on the outside of that initial circle we've done. And going back in with our mid-tone, again, we're just going to just imply there's a little screw or a little nail inside those holes, rather than just leaving it as a black hole. Okay, so as you can see, as the detail starts to get put into the work, it definitely starts to look like a much more resolved picture. So guys, I would be spending as much time as you can. Just follow those processes, your black lines, your black strapping, and your highlights on your metal along with your screw holes. So guys, that's basically taking you through from start to finish with reproducing the chest that I've been using in my work. So I hope you've had fun and you've learnt something. And please continue to paint and enjoy your time painting.